Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell in the upper right hand corner. Follow me on all forms of social media. Check me out at thatdrummerguy.com and enjoy the following presentation.
Hey, Josh.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
Well, I haven't done these for a while, so they're kind of fun, and, I realize this is a kind of a critical part of the process, so I appreciate it as well.
Well, I'm glad to be able to talk to you about this and get you back into doing these interviews, and of course, talking about an amazing new album that is going to be coming out next week from you, The New Normal, which I've gotten the chance to be able to check out over the last couple weeks, and I just love what's going on here. I'm such a fan of diverse hard rock and heavy metal albums, and that's what this album is. I mean, whether you want something that's going in all guns blazing or you want something to really grab your heart and soul, everything's covered on this album, and I just love what you do with it.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons. I mean, the album actually took me after I got the record deal. It took me 3 years, and I was in a studio. I ended up leaving my house because the comfort zone aspect of being here and seeing stuff I see every day, and I got this big ass couch in my living room, so I end up hitting that all the time. I just decided, I didn't really want to do that. So, so what happened was, as time went on, I'd say about 6 months into it, I started realizing that the choices that I was making lyrically and my voice, my range hadn't gone away, and so we started sort of revamping the record, and then we got sort of this direction to it, which was kind of cinematic in a way. If you'll notice, like, some of the songs have these atmospheric sections to it, and then it moves into like a heavy section or whatever. And when you're talking about the diversity of it, it's partially because I made the lyrics almost conversational. So what it sort of required was to really look at what I was doing, melodically and lyrically in terms of the message, and just giving those things the proper environment to be in. So I'm glad you noticed that, and I'm glad that you like that. Some people want everything to be kind of a sine wave of approach on every song, and this record certainly is not that.
Oh yeah, and I'm still one of those people that enjoyed listening to an album from start to finish. I mean, singles are great and a great representation of what someone can do, but I'm still a huge fan of listening from start to finish and hearing everything that an artist or a band or whatever the case is has to say in that particular time. So when you got an album like this where you start off like so heavy with King of the World and you're able to end it with something like Wrong, and then everything in between that's going in there from like heavy to melodic to cinematic and atmospheric. I mean, it captures so much of what I listen to, yet it all makes sense together, and that's the sign of a great album to me. Yeah,
well, you can. The other thing that is that I noticed looking back, and a lot of it has to do with some of the questions I get in interviews, is that I started doing the record, and I was very, very hungry to do it. I was very, and of course I was stepping into the unknown because I hadn't been in what I call the public jet stream for a while. So I'm walking up to the microphone, and it's you gotta in some sense, because it had been a while, I wasn't quite sure what would come out of my mouth, what it was going to sound like, and how things were going to progress. And so there was a discovery aspect to the whole thing as well. So, for example, a lot of the heavier songs like, Wonderful and King of the World and Leave Me in the Dark, and of course Beginning of the End, they sort of reflect the fact that once I got into it, there was no effort that seemed too much. In other words, I got Alice Cooper in one of the songs and Alyssa White Glues on the same song and stuff like that from Arch Enemy. So it just showed that I was willing to just sort of put everything I had and push the envelope as far as I could in terms of making something kind of interesting for people to listen to, so they get a good dose of the unexpected.
Yeah, and I was actually going to bring that up later, but I'm glad you brought that up now. I mean, like the amazing guest spots that are on this album, and let alone that particular song. I mean, when you have one of the most legendary voices of all of hard rock and rock and roll, and then you're able to mix it with like one of the leading voices of the more extreme metal sides. I mean, the fact that you were able to get that into one song and make it so cohesive and fun to listen to, I mean, that says a lot of what you're you're capable of as a songwriter.
Well, it's interesting because, you hit on a couple of things. One of them is whatever we're trying to do, there's no reason to not request from life, what you think is the ultimate. Like there's nobody that you shouldn't call and say you want to do this with. There's just no reason just to not step out and do it because, you're really trying to do something important. And the worst thing you're going to hear is no, So I think that was one of the sort of the premises of what I was doing. And then you're talking about the songwriting, that opening line, they bleed false promises until you're broken. And I was their corporate lies will bend your mind. I sang a demo version of it in the studio, so we had it as a guide. And I thought to myself, in terms of those lyrics and sort of the songwriting and the genre that was there, how amazing would it be if Alice Cooper delivered that stuff? And, I didn't want him to sing one line. I wanted to do a duet with him. So, I was the way that, my life kind of went with this record, I was very lucky because I called him up. He happened to be in town. He came right over, like the first time I called him to see if he would do it. And, of course, he really delivered on that. And then, I look at certain artists out there, whether it's Nita Strauss, and I think Alyssa White Glues, people like that are really sort of knocking down walls and changing culture and developing what I believe to be a new normal. Your first notion when Alyssa walks out, amongst these giant oak tree heavy metal monster guitar players and drummers and everything, what's this going to be? And she owns it. 80,000 people, the band, she just owns the whole moment. A very powerful artist. And so I just thought, how great would it be? Because people will think, wow, this song is heavy. Wow, there's Alice Cooper. Okay, it's Alice Cooper and Kane. And then she drops into the middle of the song and just kind of detonates the whole thing. So, I called her up and she heard the song and she wanted to do it. And then, miracle of all miracles, I got Alice and Alyssa and myself into the same location for the video that's coming out next week. So, so I look at it like what you said in terms of, weaving the songwriting, weaving what's appropriate for the song, and then just sort of pushing the envelope and seeing how far I can take stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so glad to see that particular song is getting that recognition for getting a music video as well, because the song does bring up a lot of visuals in your mind, and the fact that it's actually going forward and getting what your vision of what the song is about in a music video form, that's just so great to see that.
Yeah, I ended up doing 2 shoots. I did one in Vancouver with Alice and Alyssa, and then I had another shoot done in Atlanta with this airport and business guy, the sort of the corporate evil and all that stuff. So and the other thing too is there's no performance part to the video in terms of, they're singing, everybody's singing the song and just sort of tearing it up that way, but there's no, drummer and bass player playing or any of that stuff. I decided, going along with the sort of cinematic approach that we did with the songs, I wanted to do something different with the video as well. So it's kind of this loose narrative, being told by these very striking, shocking images and stuff like that. So, we'll see what takes place.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So getting back into the album, like you said, it took about 3 years to be able to, from signing the new contract to the album coming out. When you go back and listen to the album now, how do you feel about the final product?
I'm actually, of course there's moments I go, geez, if I had done that, that would have been perfect. Or, if I had approached it this way a little bit, I think I would have liked that. At the end of the song, maybe it needed this. But, all in all, the 2 things that come to mind, I'm very, very happy that, Frontiers gave me the time to do it. They weren't happy, so Serafino is a badass, the same thing with Mario, they're tough guys. But once they heard the record, they loved it. And, that just shows you the type of company that it is. You're supposed to take 1, 2, maybe 3 months tops. And 16 months into it, I'm like calling up, going, "Hey, sorry about and then Serafino's like, shut the fuck up, just deliver the record, So, but once they heard it, you got to see what these guys really are. That their whole reason for existing is music. So being in that environment, I was very lucky, and I think at the end of the day, I'm really pleased with what I was able to accomplish from the first note to the final frame of the new video.
Yeah, and again, from the fan perspective, I mean, loving what you've done in the past, and now hearing what's going on now with this brand new album. I mean, it's just it's great to see how much you are able to accomplish in just one album alone with this. I mean, again, just I love the diversity that's going on there. I love the different voices, being actual vocal voices or instrumentation that's going on there.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
It's just great to see that you are in that position to really being able to flesh out all of these ideas that you had. And yeah, even if it did take a little bit of time, I mean, the final product, at least in my eyes, was well worth it.
Well, dude, first of all, that's really fantastic to hear. I mean, when you finish recording, you just wonder what people's notions are going to be about. And my purpose with this is to possibly, not from an ego standpoint, but to enrich people's lives, make them think, hey, that's unexpected, that's really cool, whatever it is. And maybe the songs will become soundtrack for what they for their lives in a way. They'll listen to a song and they'll get obsessed with it for a week or two or whatever. The thing is, I think one of the songs that really reflects a lot about the album in terms of my mindset is who we are, because I think a lot of bands, and everybody has their own formula, so I'm not, what I tried to do is kick out any sense of formula. So in who we are, where the normal instrumentation or the guitar solo, for example, should go at a certain spot, and instead I had this young artist, Cap Franich, sing this bridge section kind of like conversing back at me, and I think those type of choices kind of, they're a little bit unexpected, and they just sort of get people's attentions and make them, think a little bit differently. I called the album The New Normal because, of course I didn't run away from my roots and who I am. There's no reason to even do that. And I wasn't ostensibly trying to be, modern or different or, edgy. It's just I was in what I would consider to be, my new normal. And if you look at the cover, that's the girl's name is Briarly. She's all inked up and she's wearing that mask and everything. And if that came out 50 years ago, it would get banned. It would never make it because people would be so stunned. These days, you see that cover. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Josh, but
oh, yes.
you see it and you go like, well, that's pretty edgy. I've kind of seen that before. You know what I mean? It's now like in the culture a little bit. So I just across the board, if you look at everybody, Alyssa, Nita, even the drummer from Baby Metal, Aoyama Hideki, was like one of my favorite drummers. It's just, I sort of injected things that people wouldn't normally expect.
Oh yeah, and that's the great thing about that album cover, and it's great to see that as well. I mean, just like you were talking about, like 50 years ago, that would have been banned, that would have been blasphemy, but now it's more accepted, and that really does fit with the idea of a new normal. I mean, obviously, with what you're doing, I mean, you're progressing through the years and stuff like that, and obviously things are going to change. So, it's great to see that from all aspects.
Well, the question becomes, like, if somebody like Alyssa White Blues walks out and does something that normally guys would do, but just completely, like, as I mentioned before, owns the moment, certain preconceived notions are getting, pulverized. So the question is, are you left with more, or now that thing's gone, you have less? And I think she doesn't, what she does doesn't necessarily, destroy anything. It just puts it into a different perspective, and now you're walking away with two things in your hand, or however many, because it just happens all through history. And it's the same thing with Nita. I mean, if you look at King of the World, her first riff that she plays, when we're trading back and forth, she comes in with this 2-ton sledgehammer, and I was just thinking to myself, I got to really sort of step up here and play something that's a foil to what she does and all that stuff. And the fact that she's a woman just goes out the window. It doesn't even matter. I mean, you can't avoid that both women are just insanely hot. That's not something you're going to turn away from. But at the same moment, suddenly you're striping on all this other skill and ability and a passion and artistic standard that is just, I think a really healthy process.
Oh yeah, and it really does show that no matter who you are, I mean, as long as you especially when it comes into music, when you're able to explore those artistic visions that you want to explore, try out new things, and especially when you expand your mind and see what else is currently going on right there. I mean, like Anita Strauss, like an Alyssa, like seeing what they're capable of with what they're doing, even if it's out of your wheelhouse, just like exploring all these different areas and just like continuing to grow.
Well, you think about it, Alice was one of the first, in rock to just kind of, tip over every apple cart he walked by. And it's one of the reasons why they wanted me, in the band. I didn't look like everybody else. I had a sort of different way of viewing. So, people saw me and they either, they liked it or they rejected it or whatever it was, but it was a different image. It was a different visual for somebody to tag on to whatever I was doing with music and stuff like that. I think music is a really great sort of environment to do that with that stuff. And from doing these interviews, the other thing I thought about was, what motivates people to do stuff? Like Alyssa as a little girl, like how's she headed towards where she is right now? Well, I just became obsessed with what I wanted to do. I think obsession is a good thing. Everybody talks about having some sort of balance. Of course, you have to operate and navigate through the planet and stuff like that. But I think being obsessed, I'm sure, whatever your particular creative output is, if you put in the 10,000 hours, you're better. And the theory is that the world will beat a path to your door. And if you think about it, there's no other band on the planet that I could have played with. I mean, I couldn't have joined, White Lion, 230 pounds on guitar. You know what I mean? Alice Cooper somehow, I'm at his doorstep. Who knows how that happened? So the world operates, I think, in a very sort of universally functional way. It just depends on how much, you keep trying to push the boulder up the hill, so to speak. What is that, the myth of Sisyphus, Albert Camus? I don't know why I pulled in that reference, sorry. Ridiculous.
Oh, yes, but that totally works as well too. And again, at least from the fan perspective, I mean, it was awesome to see the years that you were able to spend with Alice. And it's like he's never put out the same album twice, so every album has its own distinct feel to it. And I imagine like anyone that's ever played with him was able to go out, and when they explore different territories, they're able to have more of their horizons expanded because there's so many different things that they can look at things. I mean, whether it's from the stage show, the styles of music, the songwriting process, all of that. I just imagine that it continues to make you a stronger musician.
Yeah, and if you take your thoughts out of the process, there's a guy named I'm sure you heard of him, and I'm not like a fan or any sort of evangelist for any of this stuff. Deepak Chopra said that if you the sound between your thoughts is the voice of God, and it's not from a religious thing. He's saying if you take the thought process out of it and you just act, as a natural, normal flow, like when I'm playing guitar, like sometimes I'd be on stage and if I'm wondering about how I look, how I sound, am I going to play good? All these sentences are getting in the way of the connection between, what I'm hearing in my head and what's happening on my fingers on the strings. When none of that stuff was happening, I was just in this zone of just playing things. It was instantaneous. It's just a really sort of rich, gratifying moment. And I think, as we walk through life, we have to do that stuff no matter what. And in the writing process and the performing, and even when you're practicing or whatever in the studio, whatever, that rule is just so it's so important to try to maintain that electric wire between you, who you really are, and what you're putting out there.
Yeah, and that's such a great way to look at it, too. And again, when I listen to the album and I just comprehending that right now, I mean, I can definitely hear that that's going on throughout the album with your playing, your songwriting, the lyrical content, all of that stuff that's going on there. I mean, it really feels like it's becoming fully fledged out with this album.
Yeah, no, it's you can see it in sort of the progression of the writing. And, there were moments in some of the songs that we had songs that we wrote that we were doing. I produced it, by the way, with Alex Trapp, a very phenomenal drummer and writer and performer and all that stuff, and producer as well. So we threw things by the wayside if they felt contrived or they didn't seem. It wasn't necessarily, we weren't just thinking of performance. Of course, the performance at the end of the day had to be great, but if something didn't resonate in terms of that extra standard that you put into what we consider to be a great performance, then, it just got kind of, kicked by the wayside. So, yeah. So I agree. It's the way to sort of look at every aspect of your life. Hey, by the way, I noticed it says that drummer guy.
Yes.
Are you a drummer?
I am, yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's really funny. I just got off the phone with Ken Mary. He just, he joined Flotsam and Jetsam. I was telling him, dude, that is not an easy ride on the drums. He totally kills it. And, I have always felt that. And you'll notice that, I have sort of drum corps stuff on the record. And, part of that comes from, what we've been talking about. But I really think that, the essence of culture, the essence, the really reflective aspect of culture is rhythm and drums. And, you look at, if a culture loses its way, if there becomes, like we're sort of stepping into that. We're sort of the view of American culture and all that stuff is kind of getting shaken up a little bit. Well, when that happens, people get more, they go back to sort of a primal thing, which is what I think all the rave music and all that stuff is. And it's just the core of it is the bass and the drums. And I just think, drummers have sort of a very basic, when I say basic, I mean, essentially basic view of like how the whole universe operates, because the rhythm is the whole deal.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, whether the intention of the song is just to make you headbang the whole way through, or it's to get to the dance moves that's going on there. I mean, the drums and especially the bass too, to be able to get those great melodic feels that are going on in between with the rhythm. I mean, it's such an essential part of the music. And then when you're able to add your flavoring on top of that with some exceptional guitar work and anything else that you want to layer on top of the song, just to make it better. I mean, it does.
I'm telling you, if I'm playing and the drums are not, the feel isn't there, I play maybe 40% less. But in other words, if the feel is awesome, it's just going to upgrade my playing just naturally. I mean, I'm sure that's true with most musicians, but the whole process begins with kick and snare or whatever the percussion instrument is.
Oh, absolutely. And again, that's what I appreciate so much about this album. I mean, whether it's a guest spot or the rest of the band that you were able to get to fill out this album. I mean, the fact that you were able to work with these great musicians that you were able to have that musical chemistry with to be able to put out the best album possible. I mean, it's not always easy to find those people, but when you do, you're able to create such amazing music, and it's great to see that. Yeah,
I mean, I was blessed that they wanted to contribute to the project. So, and I chose people that are still excessively prolific. I mean, some of my friends are Kip Winger. He's still playing his solo shows, which are incredible, and with his band Winger, he just got that Grammy nomination for classical composition and stuff like that. So I got people who are still breathing rare air in terms of how motivated they are and everything, and that's, at the end of the day, that's only gonna help me. So.
Oh, absolutely. So, with that in mind, obviously, with the album coming out next week and all this great promotion that I've seen behind it, getting a new music video out there, all of these things that are happening with the album, what's going to be happening next with you?
Well, right now, my main push here is videos, and the reason is that I think that music has become more ostensibly a visual audio enterprise. In other words, for example, when I was a kid, I was always very taken about how music, juiced up a scene in a film, and it's always stayed with me that way. And my first experiences with MTV or any of that stuff, it just seemed so perfect. And now, it's really funny. It's almost as like an organic entity. MTV got pushed out of doing that, and it still emerged on another platform, which is YouTube. It's just you can't bring it down. It's just people want to see those two things, and it's such a perfect marriage. So I'm hoping I can do 3 or 4 videos off of this record. I already have another one in the works once this video is done, and it's actually based on Brierly and the girl on the cover. That's going to be the main theme. So we have some really cool ideas of how to animate the tattoos and stuff like that. So we're just that's kind of, for me, that's kind of what my intent is. So if you think about it, for me, when I was a kid, I bought comics comic books. I was a Marvel kid. I used to run down to the store when they dropped off the new comics and everything, and I started drawing all the superheroes and everything. So I've had this whole visual thing, sort of woven into everything I do anyway. So it's kind of a natural for me. So, as opposed to touring and stuff like that, I'm going to mostly do videos. If it seems like the record is pushing me in an area where it's viable or important for me to tour, then I will. But right now, I think I got more reach in terms of, finding people to experience what I do through YouTube.
And that is such a great way to look at it as well, too. I mean, it's like a touring and playing live shows. I mean, they can always be a great experience when it goes that right direction. But, I mean, the fact that you really want to be able to sit down with this album and being able to show off the visuals that you have in your mind for what this album can be through music videos. I mean, I love that fact. I mean, the fact that you have these ideas already for these songs for the upcoming videos and, if they come to fruition and being able to get that out there for the masses, I love that idea.
Yeah, and I think it helps the process, too, as far as people understanding what your attempt is here to, what you're trying to do when you record. If you can have a visual that is, appropriate with it and either pushes you in the opposite direction or takes you along with the flow of the song, whatever the moment requires, so to speak. So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I think with that, that's an amazing note to end on. And thank you so very much for taking all this time to be able to talk to me about your brand new album, The New Normal, which is coming out next Friday through Frontiers Music. I absolutely love this album. I love the fact that you were able to get all these great musicians, whether they're the full backing band or doing guest spots, to be able to help create this vision of a great, diverse album that shows everything of what you're going through right now and the state of the world going on right now, and put it through this great melodic, heavy album in 2019. I can't wait for the music video next week and all the upcoming music videos, and it was an absolute honor to be able to talk to you about all of it.
Oh, well, thanks, Josh. This was, without a doubt, this was one of the enjoyable things, because, we ended up, talking about other stuff, and, I could tell that, we had sort of a thing going on with the conversation and everything. So, and like I said, this is a huge part of the process. So conversely, I'm just as grateful, to get the chance to, expound and wax poetic about what I was doing. So thanks.
Oh, not a problem. And before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I hadn't brought up yet?
Well, just, keep your eye on my Instagram and Facebook and stuff, because, all the new stuff and announcements will be coming out from there. And, I have a website and stuff that's going to be up pretty soon. So, try to keep people, abreast of what I got coming up. So, yeah. So maybe check out my Instagram. That sort of a thing.